In the summer of 1775, as Major General Philip Schuyler prepared to take command of the northern department of the Continental Army, and as General Israel Putnam steadied his troops at the Battle of Bunker Hill, they shared the searing experience of the 1758 Battle of Carillon. And they were not alone. On both sides of the conflict, whether from personal experience or popular memory, the July 8th, 1758 Battle of Carillon was a touchstone for many soldiers in the earliest days of the Revolutionary War.
Unlike Boston, which was experiencing conflict in new and unfamiliar ways in 1775, Ticonderoga was forged by war. Here, colonial soldiers confronted a powerful and traumatic part of their collective history that gave Ticonderoga an even greater significance than its strategic location alone. From its earliest construction in 1755 to its final capitulation in 1759, Fort Carillon, as the French knew it, was the sharpest thorn in the side of the British Empire. Thrust like a dagger toward New York and New England, Fort Carillon blocked the route to Canada and forced the British to tackle its fortifications to make their way north or access Lake Champlain. At dawn, on July 5, 1758, nearly 16,000 British and American soldiers embarked on the most ambitious attempt to take Ticonderoga. Crossing Lake George, the army seemed poised to overwhelm the French, who numbered less than 4,000 strong. In just 2 days, the French defenders, under the command of the Marquis de Montcalm, labored heroically to fell a forest of trees covering the heights of Carillon. This rise was strategically positioned west of Fort Ticonderoga, forcing the British to deal with it before approaching the fort itself. Laying the logs on top of each other to cover their soldiers, the French created a dense abattis, a defensive barrier using the tangled treetops, in front of their breastworks to further slow any attackers. Shortly after noon, on July 8, 1758, the approaching British and American troops began their attack. Wave after wave of frontal assaults were driven back by French soldiers tenaciously defending their lines. Unable to coordinate their movements, each British column was defeated in detail as the Redcoats became caught in the abattis, breaking up their formations and receiving a hail of gunfire from the well-defended French. American provincial forces were brought up to support the regulars, but became pinned down by the merciless French musketry. Braving a withering fire, small numbers of Highlanders from the 42nd Regiment, the Black Watch, managed to surmount the works and even drop into the French positions, but all were cut down. The peals of gunfire continued until nearly nightfall before the armies disengaged. For the British, the battle was a catastrophe. Nearly 2,000 British and American soldiers were casualties. The defeat stunned the army and the nation. Word spread across the Atlantic, earning Ticonderoga a grim reputation as an impregnable position. American soldiers of the provincial forces reckoned with the loss in their own way, using the means available to them. Carved powder horns, like that belonging to John Collins from Connecticut, recalled that for 7 hours we fought the French, while we were all an open field, and they within a trench. Or Peter Hart, whose horn simply reads, "A bloody day we found, when we left some thousands dead upon the ground." The scale of the defeat was not lost on survivors who carried the experience and its meaning into the Revolution. Many of the key figures in the expanding Revolutionary War had participated in the tragic campaign to Ticonderoga. These veterans provided leadership to the growing Continental Army in the siege lines outside Boston, including Generals Artemas Ward, Israel Putnam, and Charles Lee, as well as Colonels Rufus Putnam and John Stark. Opposite them, inside Boston, were Generals Thomas Gage and Frederick Haldimand, who had also fought at Ticonderoga, along with many of Massachusetts' highest-ranking veterans of the battle, such as Timothy Ruggles, Jonathan Bagley, and Abijah Willard, who remained loyal to Gage's British administration. At Ticonderoga itself, General Philip Schuyler, who had assisted forwarding supplies for the British Army in 1758, took command over the northern department of the Continental Army. Under him, Colonel Benjamin Hinman, commanding the Connecticut Regiment at Ticonderoga, was returning to where he commanded a company of provincials in the 1758 battle. These connections were not only personal. Even men too young to have fought in 1758 understood the importance of Ticonderoga. The reputation earned on the heights of Carillon on that July day had cemented Ticonderoga's reputation. It showed American revolutionaries that an army of redcoats could be beaten, even by an inferior force struggling against the odds. At Bunker Hill on July 17, 1775, American forces, led in part by veterans of 1758, dug in defensively and inflicted stunning casualties on the regulars. Even those losses did not equal the killed and wounded at Ticonderoga in 1758, but it gave the Americans heart to see that the vaunted regulars could again be beaten down. That fall, Benjamin Franklin highlighted Ticonderoga's significance for revolutionaries in a satirical song called The King's Regulars, set to the tune of a popular ballad.
You all will have singing and won't be said nay. I cannot refuse where you so beg and pray. So I'll sing you a song as a body may say. 'Tis of the king's regulars who ne'er run away. Oh, the old soldiers of the king and the king's own regulars. To Ticonderoga we went in a passion, swearing to be revenged on the whole French nation. But we soon turned tail without hesitation, because we fought behind trees, which is not the fashion. Oh, the old soldiers of the king and the king's own regulars.
Franklin's song added Ticonderoga to a long litany of British defeats, going back to the 1740s. He was using this popular media to show that the fearsome redcoats had and could be beaten, often by irregulars or numerically inferior forces. Young American soldiers were starting to learn this after Lexington and Concord and Bunker Hill. But it would have been apparent to veterans of 1758, stationed here at Ticonderoga, where they were preparing not only to make history, but to repeat it if necessary.